Hi, it's John from North Star Nursery, Garden and Home, your potato gardener. We're talking about potatoes. They have finally arrived. Now, much like everything else, I need to kind of ask you guys to just wait a minute before you decide to just go out there and plant them. Because they like some soil prep in order for it to be successful, and also depending on your garden and its bogginess with all of this rain, potatoes do not like to be planted in wet soil. If you plant them in wet soil and they're not growing, they're going to probably rot. So you don't want to get too ahead of the game, or if you are planting at home and it is a wet area, we're going to show you some techniques today to kind of mitigate that. Also, we're going to show you in a really high-tech cutaway pot that I created how to do it in a container. There are a lot of different ways, much like cooking, to grow anything. And anybody can come into the equation and say, oh, well, my grandfather did it like this, or my aunt did it like that, or I've done it like this forever. Everybody has a trick. These are just my tricks, and if you have anything that you think that, sorry, my glasses were really dirty, that you think you want to share with the community, by all means. And or if you're not sure of something, definitely ask questions, because your question is somebody else's questions. So before I get into too much in the way of planting, I need to actually go over the varieties that we got this year. Now, you guys have been asking for russets. Russets are your traditional russet, traditional looking potato. It looks just like, and the reason they call it a russet is because the skin has a russety tone to it. So the flesh is nice and white. Traditional baking potato or boiling potato if you wanted to, it's totally up to you. So we do have russet. We only brought in a certain amount. What you need to get in this visual is that we have to buy in these 50-pound sacks. They might even be more than that. I know they're heavy because I carried them up here. So we have russet. We have sangre. Sangre is kind of like your traditional little new, what they would call a new potato, which is a red skin, white flesh. This is what I would call kind of your traditional boilers. So I throw these into a pan and boil them. And sometimes when I'm done, I'll take them out and put them onto a roasting pan, smush them down flat after they've been boiled, and then season with lots of fun seasoning and garlic, lots of garlic, and then roast those. So there's so many, I could talk about food for hours. I should probably do a cooking video also. So that is sangre. Sorry to jump around on you guys. This is Yukon Gold. Yukon Gold is a tried and true favorite up here on the coast. People love it. Nice white skin, great flavor, just really, really nice creamy texture, especially if you're using it as a mashed potato. But I also use it just roasted. I won't go too much into the cooking thing anymore, I promise. This is Carla Rosa. This is a slightly larger, it's another kind of red skin variety, but it gets a little bit larger and it has a yellow flesh or kind of golden colored flesh. So this is another one that's great for boiling or roasting. You know, the bottom line is any potatoes that you grow in your garden are going to be so much better than the grocery store varieties that you pick up. There's just a depth of flavor. I don't want to call it sweet because it's not sweet, but there's just a depth of flavor that's much different than what you get in the grocery store. So those are the varieties we have. We have 4 varieties to choose from. We did get a larger amount of the Yukon Golds. I think we got 200 pounds. So we should have those for a while. On the other varieties, I only got 100 pounds each. So I would say if you want to get potatoes planted, in the next 2 months, get them, store them in a cool, dark place, and this way you'll have them. These are certified seed potatoes, so they're intended for seeding in your garden. So it's different than what you would get at the grocery store. Sometimes the ones at the grocery store, if they're not listed as organic, have been treated so that they don't sprout. So you want to kind of consider that if you're going in that direction. Now, let's talk about in the garden, in the soil, at your house planting. We're going to pretend for any other reason that this is your ground, okay? I know this is really light and fluffy and may not be your soil, but what we're going to do is we're actually going to plant on top of the soil. I know that sounds kind of cuckoo, but we're going to pretend that this is the top of the soil, that I've made this little well. And then we're going to take our potato. Now, depending on, I'm not sure if you can get in there and see these little, what we call the eyes. They're these little white nodes or nodules that are on all of the potatoes. If you have like a really big potato, well, this isn't really big, but if you had a big potato like this, you could cut it into separate pieces and just making sure that you have a few nodules on each one. Now, when you do that, what you want to make sure is that you cut them and then leave them for 24 to 48 hours. What you want is this that's all wet now needs to dry out. Sorry, David. Because what you want is kind of a callus, for lack of a better word. Kind of like if you're planting a succulent cutting, you want to let it callus over before you plant it. The reason is because that stem is full of a lot of moisture and it'll rot. Same thing with a potato, especially if it's really wet out. In the old days, they used to dust them in sulfur. You can do that if you want to. That helps with disease and whatnot, but we don't usually have a big problem with that here. So with that in mind, we're going to pretend that these were healed over because we have to demonstrate. But what I would do is put one about every 6 or 8 inches. And if you pick tinier potatoes like this, you can go ahead and just put those in completely. No problem there. Now, then what we're going to do, I kind of missed a step. I'm embarrassed. Sure Start. So we want to sprinkle some Sure Start in the base of the hole or at the top of the soil and just kind of just scratch it in a little bit. You don't have to. I just like to do that for my own little sanity. Now, what you do with these potatoes in the ground that are on top of the ground is we're just going to lightly cover them. Okay? And then what we're going to wait for is when they start to sprout out. When they sprout out, they're going to come straight up with these nice leaves. Now, once you get to like 2 or 3 leaf sets on coming out of the soil, what you're going to do then is take some more soil and mound it up. So kind of think of, here's a fun one. You can think about it kind of like a pyramid. The potatoes are at the bottom, and you're just kind of adding soil over the season. Because what you're doing is you're burying those stems, because each one of those stem joints where those leaves are is where there's going to be a root that comes out that develops more potatoes. Okay? So as you bury, you're creating more and more and more. So once you're done, you're going to have that mound/pyramid. And then when the leaves start to wilt on that potato plant, that's when you start to harvest. Now, the other thing that we suggest doing, and especially in containers, but also works very well for this method, is to do something in the way of an organic, lightweight material. I'm going to pretend that this is straw. And if you get straw, you just want to make sure it's straw that's for bedding, not straw with any kind of seeds in it. And what we're going to do is we're going to put that around, we're going to pretend that the leaves are here. We're going to put that around the leaves, and then we're going to take more soil and put it on top of that. The reason we're doing this, it's a, David just went, huh?
Is that a container or is that the
This is the ground. So we're still doing the ground, and we are going to repeat this in the container. It's a little weird. But anyways, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a really light, fluffy soil mass so that when those potatoes go to develop, they can develop freely and largely. Okay? So we used this. This is actually some old, now I'm forgetting the name of it. Anyways, there's that. That's the straw. The other option you can do is newspaper. And I just kind of stripped it in pieces. Oh, don't lick that. That's your dirty finger. And the idea, again, is that this is going to decompose, but it's just going to occupy space in the process. So we would do that, again, around the leaves. And then again, we would add soil. If you want to, midway through, you can also add Sure Start so that you're nourishing those plants and those tubers. So the same thing is true for the pot. This is my cutaway pot, very high tech. We're going to start with our Sure Start at the bottom. We're going to take our little potatoes. We're going to start with some soil. And then we're going to add our organic, light, fluffy material. Some more Sure Start. It's kind of like lasagna. Sorry to go back to a cooking reference, but I can't handle it. I'm Italian. Like that. And then we just keep going. Now, some people, and I think this is an excellent idea, get an old garbage can, make sure that you drill a bunch of drainage holes in it because it's really important that they have good drainage. Start at the very, very bottom. I know it seems weird, but you're going to literally start with like 6 or 8 inches of soil. Let them start growing with your Sure Start and everything, and then just slowly add organic material and soil until you get to the very top. At the end of the season, put out a tarp because you're going to want to recapture some of that soil because that's good soil now. Dump it out into the tarp, sort through and get your potatoes, and then you can do a few different things. Of course, you can store them and eat them, which is lovely. But if you have little tiny ones that you're not really interested in eating, you can set those aside and replant. So you can create your own seed potatoes over time, which is something that a lot of farmers actually do. So when those stems start to kind of shrivel and the foliage starts to kind of look sad, that's when you want to consider harvesting. It's kind of hard to say exactly what the time frame is. Sometimes it can be May, June. Sometimes it can be earlier. Sometimes it can be later. It just really depends on the weather. The other thing I wanted to point out is if you are doing any kind of fertilizing throughout the season, of course, as you're adding layers, you could use the Sure Start. That would be great. Once you have that garbage can or that mound fully, realized, you could start using the Maxi Bloom formula. The reason I mention the Bloom formula is that it's lower in nitrogen and higher in phosphorus and higher in potash at the end. Though that middle number is what creates blooms and roots, and so roots equate to fruit for this situation. You could also use this on tomatoes, and it would do the same thing. But this would work very, very well for through the season potato fertilization. I think that's it. Oh, did we want to ask about socials? Okay, sorry. I forgot. There's so much trying to get ready for this that I'm spacing out. We are aware that some people are going away from Facebook and Instagram. And what we wanted to ask you guys is, where do you want to see our content? Please chime in comments because we're trying to figure out where to kind of put that information for you. So the other thing we're doing is David is diligently working on downloading onto YouTube. And so we have quite a few videos on YouTube as well. And what we will start doing is linking some of those things in QR codes at the nursery or in other social media posts. So let me know where you want the information. Also, let me know what information you want. I ran into a customer the other day who was very appreciative of the information, and I told her, and I'll tell you again, tell me if there's something you need to know, because I want to teach. I love teaching you guys. I love doing these videos. I love that you use them and share them. And so let's just keep that ball rolling and have a great gardening experience. So that is it for today. I hope you are staying warm. It is very chilly out there. Make sure to protect those little frosty guys. The other thing to remember is that when it's raining like it's been raining, and we think that everything is getting water, remember to check on those plants under the eaves, because they're not. Also, any plants that are under any kind of cover, porches, patios, things like that, we sometimes forget about them, and if they dry out and we get really cold, it can be very detrimental to the plant. So we will look forward to seeing you in the nursery.